Get rid of it. Planning Commission. September 19th. The vote
We have got Alderman Tillman,
here.
Jean Cringe,
Here.
Merlin Cullen, Andy Schmucker,
Here.
Roger Fleischer is not present. Mayor John Glenn is not present.
We have one. Who's present?
Quorum is present.
Item 2, group agenda.
I'll take it. Is this where we want to move that item to the bottom?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to move it to last, number 4, 5. To the end.
Item 5. Should be your is motion.
To the end.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on 1 second, please. Who approved the minutes? I didn't get
They're
that.
making a motion to revise.
We did the minutes yet?
We're revising the agenda.
Got it. Sorry.
Bring number 5, item number 5 to
Last.
8, moving number 9. Okay, so you have the motion and the second.
So the motion was Shoemaker and.
Okay.
Okay,
So a motion by Shoemaker, it was seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 5 will be moved to number 9. Citizen comments. Citizen comments are to be kept to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker unless the chairperson allows an extension of time. Each citizen is to make comments at the podium after stating name and address. Each citizen may comment only 1 time per public hearing or meeting.
Because I would ask for an extension, if I can have, in 2 minutes, I may go over the 5. That'd be acceptable.
he doesn't need address, please. Your name.
Yeah, name and address.
Okay, Bill Linsenmeyer, 1122 Valley Street. I'm here to object to number 7. I've done a considerable amount of research and had a considerable amount of contacts. It's simply inappropriate for the city to create a easement on a public roadway, and that's supported by chapter 66, the Wisconsin statutes. The committee should say no to this easement. It serves no purpose. The city council voted unanimously at the last council meeting to keep Leona Street a street. It should not be chopped up for a period of time for any type of easement. I would think the city should be concerned about any precedents it may set for other potential developers, feeling that they can simply request easements and have driveways put in and so forth until some period of time that the street will be built. It seems to me that it should come first, the street, the building. If you look at all the development pretty much everywhere else, that's exactly how it happens. The drawings you see of the 2 driveways that comes off down Leona Street, it doesn't show you there's a 6-foot section from our estimate right in the middle. What that basically does is it eliminate any type of parking that we would have in front of our house and also our neighbors. The drawing don't specifically state that, but it's there. So I don't know what the end run will be or what the intention is going to be to divide up those driveways. There's been little or no public concern about public safety. And I do want to point out one area that I think is pretty critical, because I think we talked about in the past Can I approach and get a copy of this? We talked about, ambulance and squad cars and fire trucks, all that kind of stuff. And no doubt when you have, what they think he's proposing, to build there, it's gonna become pretty congested, pretty crowded, and, pretty difficult. As we talked in the past, we've been, tremendous amount of people that utilize, Leona Street, going up and down to Mary Street, Captain Street, stuff like that. And if you look at this, it shows that, it basically shows that for residence one, if someone wants to leave that residence and go somewhere, he virtually has to go in the opposing lane of traffic. There's no other way of getting out of there. And the same with the person going to. He'd have to come down the street, go into opposing lane of traffic, and go up the driveway. That is violation of the state statute, 34605 and 34613. And I think it also creates a huge amount of liability that you have with people not knowing what's going on if they see a car coming in the opposing lane of traffic. I think if you think back in your driving experience time, you'll probably say, I've had that happen and I don't know what to do. That's what's going to happen on a daily basis. If you approve this easement, it should not happen. There's other public safety concerns, but I won't deal with that now. I think some are pretty common stuff. There's several codes I think the planning commission should be reviewing before acting on this easement. And I'll give you the codes, section 164-6. That's in the building permit and inspection. The 164-6C. The second one is 368-9D, interference with intersection. The next one is 430-11, zoning code compliance. And the last one is 368-4B, snow and ice removal. And that's another paramount issue, that where is the snow and ice gonna go? Where is the water gonna go? There's no mention of storm sewers whatsoever. And there are no storm sewers in that area. I repeat, there's no storm sewers in that area. That needs to be addressed so we don't continue to have the water at our property that we have now. I think the developers have an obligation to comply with the municipal code. And that we do request that and I do think it's very important that the city Maple attorney would review information I passed on to you. These are very important parts of this. And I think before a decision can be made to approve the easement, I believe that should come from the city attorney. I think you'll find when that happens that the information I'm giving you is correct.
I might give you like one more minute.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
More comment?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Tom Beatty. I'm the developer of what the citizen was just talking about.
Address as well.
What's that?
Name and address, please.
Tom Beatty, address 825 Park Lane, Elm Grove, Wisconsin. And happy to answer the questions when we move to that item of business tonight. The thing I would like to say is that first and foremost, all we are asking for is access to those lots. Those lots were legally created by the city, and so you have to provide us access, otherwise they become illegal lots. The city has asked us to look at options to do that as cost effectively as possible, to not have to build the road. And we can talk about it when you get to that point. Either build the road so we have access to those lots. We looked at the easement option as one to do it, and it very clearly states in our request that that is subject to final approval and review by the engineer. So stormwater, all of those things absolutely need to be figured out yet. And we're willing to consider other options. So the city would like to build a cul-de-sac on the end of that so that we gain access to build homes on those lots. That's certainly viable. We proposed that in the past. There are probably some other ones, each incrementally increasing in cost of 600 grand to build the entire street to now have 4 or 5 parcels that are buildable. So I just want to point out, we're not here saying, give us the easement, we're asking for access, and we're more than willing to work with the city and the neighborhood on how to get that so we can build a couple of homes there, which are bad.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments?
Good night, I'm sorry.
June Lenzenmeyer, 1122 Valley Street. I think my biggest question is, from our understanding, this developer does not even own this property. So how can he be going forward with this when he has not even iota of that land? I hope that you consider this. He has really no right, as far as I'm concerned, when he doesn't own the property. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments?
Can we go again?
We'll address
We can
that.
talk about that, correct?
Okay, so we'll move to item 4, approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2023 meeting.
Have a motion to approve the minutes, August 15th meeting. No, second, but I think there's a change. I don't think John Gable was called to order, wasn't that Eugene? Weren't you in charge of last planning commission meeting? I don't think John Gable did. Yeah. I think it was. I think it was Eugene, but, yeah.
Oh, up here, I see where you're saying, got it.
Yeah, I think that was Gene, not John.
Oh, did you ask, but called the order by John Gable, didn't I?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I thought you said he wasn't here. No, I didn't mean.
Yeah, he did the meeting.
Yeah.
Then is amended with Jane Green as chair.
No, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 6. Discuss with possible action regarding the proposed residential development located on south 5 acres of 305 South Clark Street, parcel number 251-121-2323-012.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Steven, we moved yours to the bottom.
Yes, thank you.
So that's why.
Yep.
Skipping over you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you. Nick, let me know that. Thanks.
This would be vertical development out Clark Street, so.
Thank you.
I don't have an agenda.
So now you're looking at the six lots instead of
Correct.
14?
Yep, so we're back, after talking with the city about the 14 lots. The cost for the city to build the road was prohibitive to get to 14 lots. They asked us to look at another option that would be far more cost effective. Originally, the city wanted to maximize what we could put there. Looking at without building a road, creating any kind of TIF or development agreement. This is really what we propose as a legal split, if you will, that meets all the zoning codes, setbacks, and you see I have some blocks on there where the houses would fit, all of it would fit per the current code, per the current zoning code, I knew I did that. So that sits there, and then you can see in order to maximize the number of lots, we have a couple of larger lots tucked behind the ones that go along the street to get us to stick over there.
Would 3 and 4 be driveways off Clark or off the drive? I'm guessing it's off Clark, the
Three-
driveway would be here.
3, 4, 5, and 6, the driveways would be accessed directly off of Clark. Lot 1 and 2 would be accessed off of Clark on the far northern edge there, and then there are the easement across 2 to 1. Using that same driveway that goes across the north and then turns to the south around the number 3.
So 1 and 2 would be in charge of cleaning that driveway?
Correct. They would be shared ownership of that driveway. And then we put in the center, you can see that kind of red hatching for the utilities to reduce the utility runs to those homes in the back.
So lot 6 would own the wetland?
Lot 6 would own the wetland, correct? And that wetland is perched, right? So there's no outlet to it. It just sits up there and gets wet and the stone out there coming off that bridge. And that's all been documented by the city. That's what we're basing it on. They did a wetland delineation, so we're going there. And then all of that is laid out pretty carefully because of the topography as well. That's why you see those houses set forward and back a little bit. So they're all sitting on high spots, so a lot of old things. So what we're doing here tonight is we're asking for conditional approval that you all think we can do this. The first part of the conditional approval is the split. So the 5 acres that we're proposing 6 lots on is the southern 5 acres of the current 10-acre parcel owned by the senior living home there. So they own 10, they're gonna split off their southern 5 and sell it to us. So the first conditional, and it's all in my notes there, the first is that you would approve that split conditionally. And then you conditionally approve the lot layout, which shows the 6 lots, which we've had some conversations with Nick and Don, the city engineers, about whether it's a plat process or a CSM. We're still kind of going back and forth on how we would end up doing that, but we would do whatever is required by the code. And then the one thing that we would ask for a variance on, and we'll go through the variance process, is the access to those lots, 1 and 2. Right now, the code requires a 60-foot wide piece of ground on the street. We would ask to reduce that to 30 for a driveway access to those back lots. And then from single family to 2 family, so those can be side by side. All of an approval from you all tonight would be completely conditional on us coming back and answering all of those other questions. We just know that if we can meet from your conditional approval, we would know that if we can meet all of the code requirements and all the requirements of the city engineer, that you guys don't have objection to us putting 6 lots there. That way we can go forward with the investment and we can go forward with closing on the purchase. And again, we've done that at the request of the city to maximize the number of homes there. Since you guys are kind of landlocked in terms of how many you can fit. Otherwise, without this, then it's a straight 4-lot deal. Right? And 4 lots go to the back, just 4 long lots along the street rather than 6. And that would be by right, because we would meet all the zoning codes. We just need your approval because it matches. Couldn't. I suppose you could, but it would be difficult to stop us because it's basically by right. Because we're meeting all the zoning codes. So this way, we're able to get 2 additional lots. And this way, the 2 additional lots, we suspect would be a little bit higher end, nicer lots, are tucked up against that woods. We think there's some real estate.
So 3, 4, 5, and 6 are 100, 5, 2, 7.
Correct.
Here.
They exceed the minimum twice. The mass, the 100 feet is the minimum. And we tried hard to get stuff. There's just no room left. We tried everything to get as many as we could.
One question I have, because I'm not super familiar with our zoning code, maybe you'll, better than I do. Is there anything that prohibits shared driveway? Or multiple lots?
No, because there's currently parcels that do have shared driveways. There just needs to be access easements or agreements in place for that.
Those easements would be recorded on the plat on those particular parcels, so they would never go away in the middle.
So this is not the original entire.
This is half of that 10 acre.
Okay.
Yep. So it goes, and it's, I cut it off a little bit, but on the south end of that senior home, there's a shed there.
Right.
The line would go just behind that shed. Yeah. And they would own the 5 acres to the north and continue to operate. What they have. This is just, and we scoured the town to look for parking right to develop, and we talked to them for them as surplus land.
We wouldn't be able to build anything on that wetland, that is
Correct.
delineated.
It's delineated, and I think it's a 35-foot setback right now from the state law. Now, some of that may change because of the US Supreme Court changed the ruling on wetlands that stand by themselves. They don't drain into something else. But we had more than enough room. That's why I placed the house, that pink box, where it would sit, so it wouldn't interfere with that wetland.
That would still give you enough setback from pretty much every.
Yeah, the 275-foot block out there.
So they could still build a shed if they wanted to have a shed or something.
Yep, except for your building, I forget the size, but these lots would allow for able code.
How far off would they be to be wetland too?
Right now, I think it's 35 feet minimum. From and
Well, if everything looks like the possibility and it meets all the other standards, I guess I would say that I would go ahead with conditional approval on that. You make that motion to conditionally approve.
I would suggest you just use the language on that sheet for the things that we have to come back for.
Does this look good, Nick?
What sheet is that?
It's my description, the first sheet, not the picture of the type one, but it's got 4 or 5 names on it and things.
Oh, I'm looking at it. I do not wanna.
No,
Yeah, I got 31 and 4 points. Is it 31 correct?
Right, you have to go between. So for the access to get that variance, I'd have to go to the zoning. Or which one is it? The
Zoning appeals?
Yeah, zoning appeals for that one.
For the
I guess-
reduction, I mean,
The one thing I would mention is, I mean, you want to get a developer's agreement in place too. I don't know if that would want to be in place before you start this other stuff.
What do you think would have to be in the developers? agreement?
I think just everything that, I mean.
This, it's sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just thinking at the end of the day, there's nothing that lives past the creation of these lots. Usually that's when we have a developer's agreement.
I was just thinking, I mean, before you take and spend all the money on all that to get something in place, an agreement with the city, exactly what you guys are building,
Yeah,
to
and
lay
that's
all
what,
that out.
well, we're comfortable going with a conditional approval.
Okay.
You conditionally approve it, and I've done this before, conditional till I come back with those 4 or 5 things approved. We go get a variance, we go do these 4 or 5 things, come back to you and say, we've done all of those approvals.
I mean, my only concern, I guess, would be with regards to the variance. I mean. If we're going by the letter of the law of the state, I don't know how you approve a reduction, because this is. We're basically saying it's physically impossible for you to provide that access. And it's not. And I guess that's a conversation that we have then, but, you know, the fact that you're laying the lots out the way you are is what imposes that restriction. And I understand that you're trying to maximize the number of lots that you can place there. But if you were to reduce this to 5 and provide that 60 and have 3 larger lots in the front,
Yeah.
you could get that. And so I understand what you're trying to do. I'm just saying from a variance standpoint, I mean, it's a self-inflicted hardship, and I think that that's where you're gonna may have a problem, at least at the zoning review stage.
Absolutely. And I would say I can't get the 60 feet and then meet the code minimums of 100 feet for. That's why we can't get 5 lots all across.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is that if you were to reduce these 4 lots to 3 and maintain the 2 in the back, you could easily.
Correct. We could get 5 lots.
So that's where I think in terms of the zone, the variance, that could be the challenge from that standpoint.
And
Just a comment outside of the approval here.
And to add to that, if we go through the variance process and they decide to reject our variance request for reason, for state statute or some other, we'll come back to you with that 5 lot deal or 4 lot.
I have to remember if there's anything in there regarding flag lots.
I couldn't find anything, you know,
Usually there's something,
a lot of other codes have
Stipulates
that.
it.
I didn't see anything in the Mayville one, and that's what was it. And a flag lot is, you can show me the document. Your flag lot is a lot that's created like this. This is the flag pole and this is the flag. That's why they call it a flag lot. And that's why a lot of municipalities have a 60-foot width or something like that.
Right.
To create a flag lot.
otherwise they'll have some other stipulation for a flag lot being 40 feet or something like that.
Right.
We got a couple of those in town and.
And our code is not
Yeah,
very thorough.
yeah.
Otherwise, we're back with 5 lots.
So Dean, was your motion? Including all that stuff?
Including the 4 item conditional on approval of the 4 items.
Was there something else Nick had? Check those? Said these four, didn't you say there was one?
Well, I guess once he gets approval for these other ones here, then I mean, he can come back and then work, get approval again and get the condition or the developers agreement in place, so everybody's on the same page here and everything's kind of set with this stuff.
At what point was the variance? I mean, That's what I haven't been listed in here.
Variance is on number three.
Three.
Three variants are.
Oh,
Okay,
right over there.
I'm more familiar with your zoning code than I ever thought.
Any other discussion? Motion approved, second. You want to take a roll?
It was motion by Frings and second by Colin or Shoemaker.
Correct.
Roll call is going to be Jean Friend.
Aye.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Aye.
Alderman Tillman
Aye.
and Melvin Colmaker.
aye.
Yep, motion passed.
Motion.
Okay, motion,
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few months.
The next one's for Leo next one.
Oh,
Item 7, discuss with possible action regarding a proposed residential development located along Leona Street right of way, parcels 251-1216-1432-008 and 251-1216-1432-009. What?
oh, thank you. I'll start with the comment from the public comment period about ownership. I do want to make it perfectly clear that we have an agreed upon and legally binding option to purchase these lots. We've already paid money to have that option, and that option will close pending a successful ability to access those lots. So that's the first. So, and then with that, we act as agent for the owner. He's turned that right over to us in order to get approvals to build some homes there. Next thing you can see here, as discussed earlier, we're asking for easements based on conversations with the city, again, to try to find the most cost-effective way to access those lots. Think about it right now, we could probably drive across that grass on those lots and access it that way. Other people already drive on that public roadway and park things there. So it's, you can use that way. We have legal access to the lots we're going to purchase. We're asking to formalize that in terms of easements. And then with these easements, I would also note that should the road ever be built, those easements would be abandoned and we just have access off the road. And the other thing, and I put that in the analysis, is that all of that easement would be subject to the city engineer. So things like drainage and turns and all of those things that provide that means that the access will get worked out and approved by the engineer. So it meets all of the state regulations and requirements and then be documented that way. And you can see we're actually asking for 3 easements, if you will. Depending on how it turns out, we're asking for 2 on the north side and then 1 off from the south to access that 3rd lot. That's the 3rd page. The page that is portrait style with 2 big red boxes.
And this is the one I was referencing here for the south. You see that street goes to the south and then ends. We're asking for a similar easement that would access the 3rd lot of what we're purchasing.
And part of that is we're not even sure that lot is buildable the way it is, but as long as we're going through the headaches to get the other easements, we thought we'd try to get that all that one. And the other alternatives are the city building the street. City could amend the street layout and do a cul-de-sac, right, at the end there. There's probably a couple of other ways. We were trying to do it the most cost-effective way, so that the easements, paving, all of that would all be part of the construction cost by the developer, so the city, other than legal review and engineering review, would have any other cost involved. And then again, tonight I'm here asking for conditional approval, subject to all of these things being approved. So we know that conceptually, this is acceptable to the planning commission, and then we gotta go back and work through it. And if something blows up, that's on us, right? Blows up meaning doesn't work out.
I mean, I don't like the Valley Street situation. Particularly because people swinging back and forth from side to side, get in and out of there.
And certainly, we would not object to a single entrance. Shared between the two homeowners, kind of like the situation we were just talking about going to. This is more representative of where the easement would go, subject to the city's engineer.
Well, that easement area, going east from Valley Street to your property line. That's at the lot line, that's where your driveway would.
Correct. We'll put the two driveway approaches there.
So theoretically, you would get into the line of traffic on the easement. And continue down the street. And likewise on the return. You come up the easement on the proper side of the road. And the only place you would be crossing lanes would be on the easement itself.
Yeah, okay, I realize that, I don't know, but it's definitely not ideal.
Yeah, you have to turn around in your own driveway up there because you can't back.
I think everything is less than ideal. I mean, I live on Dame Street and I back into traffic 4 times a day.
I know.
So, I would rather have something else, believe me.
I mean, if you wanted the driveway over there for that property, you would have to. So you would have to finish off that road right over here. This little part of the.
Have you explored like a T turnaround? And then just have the driveways off the wings?
We'd be more than happy to do that. That's the conversation. I'm asking for the concept of an easement in place of the road. And that concept of the easement pending or conditionally approved, being approved by the engineers. You know, and if they work on something for public safety that's appropriate, we're doing that. I'm saying this is the area. And where I show those two, what Gene just mentioned, those two come up to the lot line, that's where we're planning our approaches. You know, that would tie in, should the road ever be built again, that's where they would come out on the street. And then the other thing I would point out about traffic is that this is the end of the street. Because other than the 2 residents that live there and there's no other cross traffic there. It's not like pulling out on Clark or Dayton.
I realize what you're saying. I mean, it's a little goofy.
And a single drive there with T's for turnaround, we could certainly do that.
And we have it other municipalities that require some of those for situations like this. And then they'll have the drive,
I see that in my experience.
and they'll have the driveways then off of the other turnaround, so that if you're driving down the road, you see that's a dead end road, you have to turn off of it to get into the driveway.
Right. We can do that, and I fully expected this to change because of the drainage. And then snow saving, but this is the thing about it, this is the area that we're requesting is reserved for the easement. Whether there's 2 driveways there, or there's a single driveway and a T, or a turnaround, or a Y, those are all up to the city engineer. Making sure we got it as safe as possible.
And you said like if the city would ever want to put that road in, the easements drop in right away.
We'll put the language in there that if the road is, if access to the lot is provided by a new road, the easements go away and they have no claim to it in city property.
You know, I'm a little bit in the other part of that whole project, so why? Fill me in on why they own that finish.
For our country,
Yeah, that's.
Nobody else-
There's a few roads that are mapped on in the city that aren't there. Somebody mapped it and then they decided not to. put it all
Yeah,
in.
nobody else was there.
Yeah, well, I'm there, but.
Yeah.
It's completely, but.
There are city utilities through there, and that's why it's right away, yeah, there's no road that was.
Right, so the water and the sewer feed homes to the north and to the south that run north south.
So there's sewer under this proposed road.
There's
At what point would we consider creating the Old Street paving at the finishing end? Five people come up with or how many lots would be there?
So there's 3 that we are purchasing on the east side, and on the west side, I think there's 3 more at least. And some of those are a little bit larger, you might even be able to do a 4 or 5.
I think there's just one on the west side, but you could.
Yeah, when I scaled it out to our lots, because we looked at that option as well, I think at most you could get 7 new homes along those street if everything went right. One of the other things that could be done in the future is, couldn't you build it to a different spec in the city? The street spec? Treat it like an alleyway or something? You didn't have curb and gutter, you didn't have all of those things.
That would be something that the city would have to discuss and see if that's what they would want to do. And that would be an option, I guess, if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, that another place is.
And that's not unusual for the way streets usually get done, right? It's a gravel alleyway, and you pave it 16 feet wide, then the more homes build up on it, you end up putting a good base and curb and gutter and stuff.
The city actually owns right over the property for the street. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what created the legal lots. So if the city didn't own that, if somebody else owned that strip of land, that would be the 3 lots there and one on the other side were basically legal because they don't have access.
The city owns all the way.
Well, you could make private street if that, but
Right, there are things you can do, but you'd have to work out a deal with the other landowners. So that's why these are legal, accessible, buildable lots. And it was platted that, that's a very important, it's not just that this, like, the city owned a park next to it, we couldn't ask for a road. But the city platted that, and that's what's on the GIS and in the survey, it calls for that road to be built there. It's platted and recorded that way.
the sewer and water ends at Valley Street.
No, there's sewer and water down Leon.
Down Leona Street. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of fire hydrants out there in Bushwick.
Mm-hmm.
I walked that, but I didn't. Okay. Okay. But no storage bill.
No storms, correct. That would be something that would have to be built in conjunction with,
Where would that connect up with that, down on,
I'm guessing down on Catherine.
Mary Street or what's it?
Catherine.
Nick, what do you think about the developer's request?
You're just looking for the easements. Access easements for 3 parcels and then. Amending the lot line there to match the center line.
Correct. Just bring that one, so. And depending on how the easement works out, that line is probably. I was trying to do it the most cost effective.
That I am familiar with that. That's good. And with the fact that Leona was never constructed for whatever reason, in my experience, is atypical.
There's a feeling like that here in Mayo.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of
it's
more
very
typical.
atypical. Normally, the stuff is going bang, bang, bang. I mean, I'm doing three subdivisions now, roads are there. I would like to postpone this to the next meeting, so that I have some time to look into it a little bit, because I'm unfamiliar with it. I'd like to ask, what the situation is with the road. Whether or not that's something that may be maybe able to be constructed, or maybe we can, get a timeline on that. Before I just say, yeah, and I'm doing this. With my opinion.
Well, I'm not sure if the city would agree to building this street because of the cost. Prohibited. The return on that for the time being, but not.
Anywhere, we own the street has been, we own the street for how long?
Was that yeah. Yeah.
And. We never involved it. No,
Well, until we got.
doing anything with it.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm believing that, you know, when we put a couple houses through there and put a couple lots and give them houses, you know,
Then it becomes.
that property becomes viable building property. I mean, there's
And-
probably 99% of people being able don't even know that's there.
Wow,
Yeah. I would also glad that what we're looking at, think about just doing cul-de-sac. Circles home, rather than building.
I mean, part of it for me is just that I came on after, you know, you guys have had many conversations. And I'm just unfamiliar with a lot of it. I have not had time to dig into it at all.
Question, if we do this, easement and that, and we, or, grant this, it goes to council then, right? From here, to say yes or no?
I'm thinking the council would have to agree to the easement.
Yeah.
Legal would have to-
I was just thinking, then you could decide there too, if we decide to go.
I believe that this would have to be a recommendation of the council.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the way it went last time too,
Yeah.
for the vacating of the.
Well, that wouldn't happen until we get it.
We'd have that.
We all done that's and everything put in place, and then we approve the variance, and then it would go to the council, so that's still. Once,
The vacation you're talking about?
if we would give you conditional approval, you still have to come back. Get all the variances, everything else approved.
Yep.
And then if whatever happens here, then it would go to the council after.
Yeah, I'm asking, very clearly just asking for your conceptual approval that this can work, subject to everybody else approving it.
Right.
I've got to work with Nick and Don and
Yeah.
come up with the way it works. they have to approve it, I have to bring it back here for the final. Just say that.
Yeah, nothing about our conditional approval gives you a right to build and do anything. Other than,
I just want to know that if I go and get all that other stuff and I come back, you're not gonna say, oh, but we really meant. And
and then at that time, we can find out about the burden to the city for the storm sewer and the other costs.
I could talk to Don about getting
Yeah.
some estimates together for Leona Street, if that's what you guys would like.
And actually table it, if you have any questions, we're happy to coordinate answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would like more time to look at it personally. Because I'm not familiar with the area or what plat was or any of that stuff, and it's really hard to me, to really watch, looking at it on the pages, yeah, pretty hard to visualize, so that's. I would like to postpone it to the next meeting. Like kind of.
You need to do that as a motion.
I'll make a motion.
there just wouldn't be any action, right?
Well, no, we would just postpone it to next meeting.
Yeah.
If we take no action, it would fall off.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to postpone it to our next meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Eight, discussion with possible action, rezone petition by Lawrence and Tricia Weckl, for property at 936 Meadowcraft Drive, parcel number 251-1216-1323-006. B2 outlying business district to residential zoning.
Lawrence Schwebel, we own the property 936 Meadowcraft Drive, my wife Tricia and I. Also Scott Nyberg, our real estate agent, as well as student. Before you, I gave a little history on the property. Back in '97, my in-laws purchased the property. It was in the town of Williamstown. And at that time, Pat Myron wanted to open up a daycare. So he built onto the house an addition. And in '98, when that was being done, the architect at the time thought that the well and septic would not support a daycare. So they were annexed into the city. So at that time, 97, they were annexed in. 98, the daycare opened. And then they ran that daycare until Myron passed in 2010, and then Tricia and I bought the daycare from Pat, the property and the business. In 2019, we closed the daycare down. We came to the city and presented, we wanted to open up an Airbnb. The house part, our house portion has, on the pictures you can see there's 3 bedrooms. We've got at the inside of the house, redid that all. And then where the daycare part was on the addition, that is where we have an open facility, what we call a retreat part. So ladies will come and do their quilting, crafting, all that kind of stuff. And we also have a lot of Airbnb traffic with after parties, after ed parties, guys coming up and doing dolphin retreats. So we've got a lot of that. So now we're coming before you in 2019, when we came to the city and we presented that we wanted to run the Airbnb. It became an issue with the zoning. Back in '97 in the town, '98 we get annexed in. We were listed as residential up until 2003. And speaking with Nick and people at the city, for some odd reason, it got changed to commercial. Nobody can find paperwork as to why that happened, but on the tax rolls, then all of a sudden it changed to commercial. Just because I don't know, we're in that area, we're right across the street from Trusses Plus. Two houses to the north of us, is the town of Williamstown, and across the street, to the west of us is the town of Williamstown, and there's a residence there. So that's why we want to change it back to residential. Just so we can sell it as a residential property. We've had it listed for over 3 weeks now, and we've had no interest in a commercial use of that property. If you look at the pictures, it's obviously a house with an addition on it. You know, the garage and a shed that's on the property also. So when that zoning was changed, it was changed by the sitting members on the planning commission to this outlying business. There's 4 other Airbnbs that are running in the city, and those are residential properties, and they're running the businesses out of those homes.
So it was rezoned to a B2, so you can use it as an Airbnb.
Yeah,
That doesn't even make sense. You
No.
know what the.
I don't know what the stipulation was.
That's a residential use.
right.
They have it, as lodges and I think craft stores or something like that. I think that was kind of the
In the
concept.
B2, there is a lodges, so they're like, well, we'll just make it as lodges.
Yeah,
So that's apparently unbeknownst to, you know, us that, you know, the other Airbnbs were running as residential.
Well, you said that happened in 2003. Was that maybe because it was still a daycare at 2003?
It was a daycare in 98. So it's from 1998. It's been a daycare ever since. Patty Cakes Daycare has been in operations since 1998 up
Yeah.
until 2019 when we.
That's why I'm saying, I wonder if that's why it was changed to G2, because a daycare would maybe they could figure that was commercial.
Yeah, I don't know why they would make them make it a B2 for Airbnb purposes. That's typically.
But that was before it was an Airbnb.
No,
Right, so, well, actually, we were zoned light manufacturing.
Right, I realize that,
Yeah,
but it just says that, that it needs to be rezoned to a B2 to be Airbnb.
yeah, that's when we came to the planning commission. They're like, hey, we'll zone you as B2.
Okay.
Oh, I thought in 2003 was done.
No, that, it was on the tax roll.
Oh, on the
It
tax
changed
roll. Okay,
from-
gotcha.
it
Now,
changed to
sorry.
residential for whatever reason, so I don't know.
Okay, now I
I'm
understand.
trying to look back, we can't find any records.
I found the record in 19 when it was changed from
From the light manufacturing.
M2 to B2 outlying business. And I think they considered that falling under the lodges as the principal use for the lot.
Can I just say something? Tricia Schwackel, I'm also an owner of the 936. So the reason what we're proposing today is we're not understanding why it was turned into B2 back in
Nor do I.
2019. And as most of you know, it's been a successful business the last 3 years, other than the year COVID hit. But we live in East West Bend and it's become a lot running back and forth from Maple. So we are asking that you change it to residential so that we can put it on the market as residential. Because it's a beautiful home for anybody with a large family.
Have you looked at the residential zoning? Do you know which one you would be looking to, that would meet the requirements for?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my point. What residential would be.
What would you have put it at back in 1998? When the property was. When it annexed in, do you have any paperwork on that?
From 98, no.
Yeah, so I don't know.
The-
So we're on the city sewer and water. We've been paying city taxes since 97, when my in-laws had the property. So. It's not a big change, as far as the tax base.
But it's set up as one house, right?
Yeah, if you look at the pictures, you have the house.
Okay, there's no like two kitchens or like.
No,
Okay.
there's no.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason it shouldn't be residential, but I think that we need to have like a proposed residential district, not just blanket residential, because we can't just call it a residential lot without having.
But there isn't others right there.
I realize that, but we can't just say like it's residential without creating, or placing it in one of the residential zoning classification.
Oh, that one, yeah.
But without having that on here, we're kind of, not much we can do with it. I think that we need to have a proposal to have it classified as a specific zoning district. Would you not agree? I mean, I don't know that we could just call it residential tonight and then leave it at that, because that doesn't really clarify anything.
Can we amend? Oh, I didn't realize, nobody told me when I was filling out the paperwork that there was different residentials. Can we amend it to? I mean, I guess I'm looking to you guys too, because there's all these residential Airbnb and short-term rentals. What are they currently?
Well, I don't know that that's relevant necessarily. It's going to be a matter of how, I don't know what our residential classifications are, but I know there are different ones.
Mhm.
And they're gonna have different lot coverage, or different lot sizes, probably, I would assume different building size, the setbacks, all kinds of stuff. So I think that we need to know what classification is being requested before we can approve.
R8 single, RB single. Try one of those. RB1, one, two family.
Give us something that's showing the whole.
Right now it's M2 general manufacturing, right?
Right.
No,
The color is.
it's B2.
It was M2. It
The
was.
zoning map had
I was gonna
not,
say that's different.
the zoning map has not been changed.
Oh,
'Cause-
okay.
Yeah,
Like it's that light purple.
but I went back in the record from 19 and found that it was like B2.
I don't have a problem with it being residential, because that's probably just what it should have been in the first place.
Yeah.
The question is, what is it?
Mhm.
Which.
And you were out
Right,
there.
there's three different residential.
Yeah.
Put it as what it was in 98 when it was annexed into the city.
Single
It's a
family
residential.
mix.
Right, I mean, it's RA, is it RB, is it B1?
Those cosmetic colors are different too. That kind of.
Yeah, it's on Williamstown, yeah, so I mean.
Yeah, Williamstown. So what does it fit for us?
It is a single family residence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, with an
There
addition.
are multiple different ones, and then the question is which one
Yeah.
to fall under.
Exactly. What,
To me,
what determines that?
most appropriate to me would be here, or be one next. One and two.
RB1 mix, yeah. Will probably be the most favorable.
Yeah, can you cover both,
Yeah.
everything then?
It also covers-
Yeah, because it covers bed and breakfast and stuff like that too, and end up doing something like that.
And I do, that's probably. Kind of. That's probably how, if I would propose it be zoned, if you look at our property, it's 4,000 square feet. It would be a perfect, it's been a great, short-term rental, but it could be something like that, where you have somebody come in, they actually live on the premises, and, we have a lot of options out there. We've got great parking, great for the city of Mabel, so there's a lot, and we have different people inquiring on the property at this point.
So change the.
The only stipulation with RB1 and mixed would be that it's got a minimum lot area of 7,000 square feet.
And moreover, that is appointing to. The property is appointing to.
Oh, I thought you said it was like 4,000.
That's
Or
the-
the
The
building
building
itself.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm
never
sorry, the building
Living
itself.
quarters, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it would,
But if you did that, if there was that,
You could actually have somebody living there and still.
Truly,
RB1.
if we're looking at,
RB1, yeah.
if we're looking at the future for the property itself, it could even be a residential. And if somebody had offices in the one room. So there's a lot of options with this building. Because it is so large.
My only question referring to it in RB1, then is, do you have it up?
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at.
Under intent. It's intended to provide for structures in older areas where single family conversions to two family dwellings are likely. I don't know that there's any intent to really convert this.
Yeah, because everybody knows that they're the next, which aren't in the city, are the next two homes, but they're single family,
Mhm.
you know, can't be anything else.
There's 3 single families around there.
Yeah, across the street.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is that the section that we're talking about is for the intent of that zoning district is for single families that are likely to be converted into a two family, which this is probably not.
No.
So this is where the question of how we classify it becomes important.
Yeah, can we make a motion to change it to a single family, either A or B, depending on what Nick and whoever else
What's the
finds out?
difference? We gotta have a B.
What's the difference between A and B?
Okay.
Lot size,
Lot size,
one is 9,000, one is 12,000.
okay, those are minimums,
Yeah.
and this is way over that, so I guess it won't matter.
Mhm.
Is there anything else besides lot size?
Said they could potentially use it as a home office or professional offices, or
I mean,
if they wanted to.
you know, yeah, I know you've been in the building and there could be so many
I
different
mean,
uses for this property.
could we call this an RAA too, because that allows you up to 18,000 square feet? Or is that smaller than the two? Because I think if you're gonna make it residential, you might as well make it.
Well,
Beneficial.
whatever you guys are gonna do, I mean, you're gonna be doing an island. Cause there's nothing around there other than RB or B2 outlying business or M2 general manufacturing. I think that's part of the reason too, that they went B2.
I think you're right.
But the other problem,
Time ago, so I don't remember all the specifics, but yeah, we are creating an island.
if the other two properties to the north and the other side of the street want to annex into the city, they're residential also, if their wells
Yeah.
or the septic would fail, they would want to annex in. And then they could be annexed into this.
I mean, I don't have a picture of the actual lot. Do you, any concerns about the setbacks?
That house is set back pretty far, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't. The only concern would be the north property line for setback. But I think those are typically 10 feet. Yeah, side yard setbacks, 10 feet, so.
Yeah, I think we're just. Yeah, I think it's right about there.
No.
Yeah, it's back here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's real close to that band. Real close to that rear lot line?
The north lot line, yeah.
Would that, all right, so would that be considered rear by standards here? Because I know that can get a little tricky with the way
No.
that lot is.
No, I think that'd be considered side, because you're coming off of B there, is there where their driveways.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't, I know
Yeah. And
front can vary depending on where we are.
Yep, sure.
I mean, I guess. I would make a motion to rezone it to RA, to family.
I would second that motion.
Go ahead.
Recommend to council.
Yes. To rezone to RA. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Motion carries.
Hey, and this will be on the agenda for the next county council meeting. We'll have to get public notifications out to the neighbors and out to public, so anybody that wanted to weigh in could weigh in. But then it should be at the next county council meeting, which is,
September 25th.
and that is at 7, I believe. You can see it on the city's website.
Yeah. we've got time.
well, it probably won't be on September 25th, that's next one, because you have to notify the neighbors.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it would be the following month, it would be in October.
Probably.
It would be
Yes,
the-
October,
Sorry, it would be
yes.
the, I'm sorry, yeah, it would be the third, we can't do the, it would be the third Monday in October, whatever that is.
Yes, third Monday.
But anybody that, okay, but anybody that's inquiring on the property, we can tell them it's proposed.
Correct, it would be that council on, that, whatever that third
October
Monday is.
16th.
This- Okay.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, item 5, which was, discussion with possible action zoning options for 105 Bridge Street, parcel 251-1216-2314021. Current zoning B1 central business.
I wish you got here 3 minutes earlier than you learned when you got.
It's actually very interesting. Learn a lot. I enjoyed it. I was learning a lot. Speaking of approving zoning changes. No, yeah, I didn't mind sitting there.
Any, thing happened in the last, for selling?
No,
Okay.
not at all. Yes, no new inquiries or anything. So. No,
For the last meeting, I told you guys I would forward you the information from, the city attorney regarding the non-ground level conversation. I mean, this is, his length, his response is lengthy, but basically he said, based on these considerations, it's my opinion that ordinance should not be interpreted to construe the main level of this building as a non-ground level. Doing so could potentially lead to a number of applications for building permits for apartments on main levels of other buildings within the zoning district with walk-up main levels. So
so why did he just said because his reasoning was don't interpret it that way because it.
because the level below it is basically the basement area. I mean, that was kind of what I expected from him. That's why I didn't want to touch interpreting it on our own. And I just, outside of that, I don't see any way to rezone the property itself. I mean, without having to just blanket grant every single request for a change of zoning.
Well, his thing was, we don't determine 2 steps or 5 steps or.
Correct.
That's the big issue that you get in. I understand that.
Right.
Yeah, but this is an old city. And practically every building on Main Street from, the hotel, south, is theoretically not on ground level because that's the way it was built 100 years ago.
But you can actually see in the window.
I don't have no problem with the rezoning of this. I think it's pretty clear that it's not a ground level unit.
I don't see this ground.
It's off of the main,
I'm 6'5" and I can't see any windows.
yeah.
Even the bottom of the windows when I walk by it.
His interpretation was basically that there's this level and there's the basement.
Yeah.
That makes it ground level, period. And then if we agree to that, then we get in a conversation on every single one of these, and you're gonna end up losing the whole business section of it. Because everybody's gonna make the same argument, and once we open that door, every single building down there is gonna be the same.
What about conditional use?
He did address that too.
Because
So I also have a question. So I'm looking at the zoning, the B1 zoning. And the buildings directly across the street are all zone B1 and they're all residences. The corner one is is literally a ground floor apartment. The one next to that is an apartment. The one on the other side of the alley is an apartment, but they're all on here as zone B1. Which I found kind of interesting. I mean, that's literally right across the road.
that whole block is red besides.
The whole block is red except the one orange parcel, and that whole block of School Street is residences. You know, I mean, it's all residences, ground floor residences, mind you.
Right, but they're not approved for that, so whether or not somebody's using them illegally is not really part of the
These are
conversation here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna comment, it's from the piece that we discussed the last time with regards to the concerns about upgrades, because it did, you know, you could sell that building as a B to any business that is classified as a B business occupancy, which would be almost 99.9% of businesses that will move into there. And there will be zero requirement for them to upgrade any acceptability unless they make alterations to the space.
Which, considering the age, you pretty much have to make alterations to the space to conform to your business.
Well,
I
somebody could move in there tomorrow as a dentist, right?
They can,
They can't, but that's a restriction that you're placing on. them.
yes.
I mean, so we can't necessarily just say, because you don't want that, we should bend the rules either, because then we're gonna be handcuffed every single time somebody wants to sell a building by making changes, and we're gonna end up just wiping out the whole street.
I mean, I don't know how they ever had a dentist there because of the steps. I mean, you get all these, anybody that's a little bit older, they can't get the steps and all that, and somebody breaks the leg.
I don't.
Yeah, that's why, that's a building stuff exists in buildings.
Yeah,
I think that's a problem for any other business that goes in there too. I mean, and like you, it's
Yeah.
virtually useless on that.
Yeah, it's virtually useless as a business
Yeah.
property, as a commercial property, because of the accessibility.
Business that didn't have any public, attendance, you know.
would you rather see an apartment in there or it's vacant?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if you make that an apartment, then you might as well just wipe out that whole street, because we can't start plucking piece by piece by piece and saying, well, this person wants an apartment, so everybody else's business, but that person gets it, because the minute we do that, every single one of those is gonna be the same, and you lose that whole business section.
How many
It's
different?
practically already,
There's only one business.
I mean, what is it? There's a bar that's kind of open and a tattoo parlor. And the rest of it is residences on that road.
But there's a building next door that used to be the tattoo shop.
Yeah, it's a tattoo shop on the bottom and then an apartment above.
Okay. Is that still a business?
I've never seen them open. I think it's by appointment only.
Oh,
Usually, once in a while, they would be in there when we would be leaving. I think it's appointment only after, I think they have another job or something. But, well, the entire block is practically apartments already, other than the bar.
Medical, people are in the one building.
Yeah, the corner right here.
Is that a map that we have, the zoning map?
That one,
Correct.
that too.
Yes, it's all business.
Make a lower floor apartments, and we turn that down.
I mean, I just don't think there's anything we can do with this, unless you want to reconsider that rezoning that entire area.
Is there an exception that we can do based on the, the specifics of the property? Like, I totally get where you're coming from. And, I see the logistical nightmare that might cause. If you start with one building and say, well, it's all grand. But each building is so different in its own right, like, we're not talking 2 steps or 1 step off the floor. We're not talking, so there's a lot of nuances with that particular property and its marketability as a, or lack of marketability as a, you know, commercial real estate. Because of the access issue.
My
Can you
response
make,
to that though would be that, isn't that a risk you assume when you purchase commercial property that you were successfully operating? I mean, you know, I just think that the fact that I mean, the vape shop has been sitting on the market since I moved here. You know, I mean, it doesn't mean that we should rezone it just because it's not selling. And I understand your situation. I'm not trying to be, I'm not sympathetic. I don't know that I don't feel like it would be right for us to address this at all. I think we should just take no action and let it die.
I don't look at that as a ground level.
I mean, I think.
I think when you first walk in the door, that's the ground level right
The
there.
city
That's the
attorney
part,
was
and then
very
up
clear
top
in his
is-
interpretation of
Yeah.
that, like getting into how many, is it 4 steps, is it 2 steps, is it 7 steps? And the intent of ground level is there's the basement and there's first floor. You know? I mean, I think we're in dangerous territory if we start talking about how many steps it is. Or
No, I'm not talking about numbers.
or eye level or whatever.
It's not, thing is, when you walk in the door, there is a landing right there, and then you go up.
I mean,
The landing ground level,
That's ground level, I'd say, well, it's enough.
it could be, I mean.
It doesn't say how long big the ground level has to be. Does it?
I took our daughter in there in a wheelchair and 2 of us took her up the steps, so you know, there's enough room to get in and.
yeah, I get it. I mean, before you guys decide to refer to it as ground, non-ground, I would at least tell you to read through what the city attorney had to say regarding getting into these interpretations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't, has the city attorney been in there?
one lawyer away to get silly.
you know, my goal is really just to make it functional
Yeah.
and used. Otherwise, you know, before long, it's just another vacancy.
Well, I got a problem with that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple ground level places that are being used, and I'm sure that they would come immediately looking for this. But then the one I'm thinking of is right on Main Street, next door to,
So this even need to be rezoned if that landing was ground level? And then up, that would be second upstairs, right? They could be.
They do allow apartments on the second floor. But there again,
I think the city attorney was very clear on the fact.
I gotta say, so
If you-
technically he could list it as residential.
If you go
Get away
in
with it.
and then you go up those steps, and you have to go in the back there and then go down steps to get to the basement. So I don't know what.
Yeah. It is a unique building.
Yeah.
to say the least. Still trying to play by the rules, you know.
So Nick, what's our options? Either say, it's staying like it is, that he can do whatever he wants to, or rezone it, or just say, yeah, we consider that as a upstairs.
I don't think that we can make that determination.
Yeah, he would end up having to file for a rezone, pay the fee, and then it would have to go before plan commission here again to get it for final approval by common council, if he would end up rezone.
Did you officially, file for a variance or anything? You haven't done anything like that, yeah. Oh. So. That would be is, that step, wouldn't it?
A variance in terms
A
of,
variance or a change to residential.
So that would be done here. Right? Is that what we're doing?
Well, we're just gonna see the paperwork for that, that's why.
a variance would be something different.
Yeah, well, I don't know about variance here.
I don't know what the variance would be either.
I mean, I think that this is where we would be at in terms of whether or not, if you guys want to, you know, consider rezoning, recommending rezoning. I think that's a really slippery slope, and I think trying to interpret this whole non-ground level thing is also a very slippery slope. I don't like either one of them personally.
Well, let's see what happens. I would make a motion that we, approve, changing the zoning for the building.
Does he need the permit first?
Well, yeah.
He would have to
What I
file
asked.
for, yes, he would have to file the paperwork and pay the fee. to
He
then
did file?
move forward, no.
No, it's just asking about.
This is just an informal discussion regarding,
How is it, discuss with possible
uh,
action?
maybe. Should have been just discussion.
Discussion, possible action, don't be on the
Today, you know, to be going and doing that. What it was.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. What would it be rezoned to?
Whatever you just said, for the paperwork.
Okay,
Yeah. But it would be a single family, you know.
Well, it is big enough for two different apartments. I went a couple months ago, they said that.
does B two allow that or anything
If
like
they-
that? Are there any other? Like, business zonings that allow it, like, can it stay, like, does B two allow? Ground floor residences or? No,
B2 does not allow for ground floor, they allow for second floor.
Yeah.
Residence, but not ground floor.
so no different than B one really. Because B one allows second floor as well, correct? I mean, it must because.
Correct.
Yeah,
But that's essential, and then B2 is outlined.
I mean, that's like smack in the middle of all the downtown stuff. I don't know. So there's a motion to,
yeah,
Well, no.
You can't make a motion if the zone, there's paper, there's no paperwork.
that's right.
yeah, and I get what the zoning is, like, the zoning is designed to protect like Main Street proper. I don't know if. Yeah, I understand you don't want every business on the Main Street being apartments, but. Bridge Street is already apartments. Truly is, that's all it is right now. It's all apartments.
Well, we have the
But then,
beauty shop.
Yeah.
Smith and the tavern
yeah,
and,
number one, if he applies for zoning, you're correct.
total spot zoning.
Right, I mean, it's just gonna be.
That's another problem that I have. So, I mean, you're picking one building in the middle of change zoning.
That's what I mean, you used to have a blanket, say, we're just gonna wipe the whole thing out and rezone everything, you can't start just flopping stuff down. I mean, the last one that we talked about was a little bit of an exception, if it wasn't sitting out by itself and no more.
Well, and if you're going residential, there's two residences that are going to,
Right.
they aren't in the city.
Well, it sounded like that was placed wrongly and.
And one across the street, so you're talking. Yeah, it's.
I mean, this is also, you could, this building is also an exception, is the only building that. Quote unquote, the ground floor is 8 feet above sidewalk. I can't think of any other building. Especially on Bridge Street or on Main Street where the main floor is 8 feet above street level.
I mean,
It's,
in terms of that, I don't even know that we have to address that even a little bit, I mean. I don't really think that it would be appropriate for us to determine that it's a ground level or a not ground level, I guess. If it's going to be used, proposed as an apartment, that would. So I don't know, that's probably what's going on in these other spaces that you're talking about, if people are just
they're just doing,
putting in there without proper permission. Now, whether or not that's legal or not, isn't, I'm not gonna chime in on it because I don't know what's going on there, but.
Well, I mean,
the fact
these
that-
are houses,
the
but
fact that-
they're marked as B1, right across the street.
Well, but them doing wrong doesn't.
Yeah.
So, that I would buy either, but.
So I mean, I guess if we don't even have an application. It would be up to you to determine whether or not you want to fill something out and come back and
Yeah.
formally and. Propose that.
That would be the right action.
I mean,
You're getting a feeling here of.
That or they would tell us exactly what ground level is, then you wouldn't even have to do anything if that wasn't.
that's the problem with the problem with that is that the code is the problem. You use a term that's not defined.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna get into like,
Yeah, the council will create its own.
we got enough.
If you have a problem, you fix it.
A 6-foot person can't see in the window.
In terms of, just there's no action to take right now and. Or decide whether or not you think it's worth bringing it back, I guess, with an app actually applying for that.
Yeah, because we can't make more motion friendly zoning because we don't have a
Correct.
form.
Yeah, well, that's true, I guess. You can define that, but the outside steps, not the inside steps.
Oh, same with the, well, this, I mean, they're putting in one step down, it's, 4 or 5.
So you just take no action on it right now, and if you want to file the application, do that and bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think that's.
Or, and you're gonna have to determine what that application would be for.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and they can help you with what would be the best.
Yeah.
For his purposes, it had to be a residential and
That's what I would think would be.
none of the business zoning allow for. First floor
Alright.
apartments, so
Right.
Which.
Otherwise, I guess the other option is
Total.
changing the zoning. Amending the zoning district, so.
Because like you said, and you get another one here and there.
Yeah.
Now you got here.
Yeah.
You can't. zone with that.
so yeah, I mean, I guess there's nothing to do with this one and just figure out what you want to do, and if you decide to put that out and request it, then we can go from there. Here at the next meeting.
Okay,
I have
thanks
the,
for your time.
All right, thank you.
I have the form if you want it, just, I can send it to you.
I'll email you. Okay, thank you.
We have a motion made.
Adjournment.
Give me the motion, I second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Six thirty, adjourned. 6:36. 6:35.
One of those will work.